What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about every single factor that I know influences your sales on eBay. So the first thing I want to cover is that there's two ways that things can affect your sales. There's indirect and direct. A direct way that something affects your sales means that if you do this thing, eBay will actually rank you further up in search results. That means that it is a metric that eBay looks at, and based on that metric, eBay will rank you, okay? So then you're gonna get more sales. However, most things are indirect, and what indirect means is that it's some kind of change or variable that influences buyers but doesn't directly influence Cassini, which is eBay's search algorithm, okay? And I'm not going to say whether all of these are indirect or direct because it's hard to know without actually having Cassini in front of you, and eBay doesn't exactly share all of that information, right? So first, let's just look at a couple listings to go over some things. So I'm going to look for something like, I don't know, dog bones. So let's talk about the most obvious one first, which is titles. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but there's two things I want to cover, okay? When you have a title, you have up to 80 characters in your title. So you want to have as many words as possible that are related to words that people are searching for, okay? That's title optimization 101. But understand that it's not just filling it with words that people are searching for, because you'll often find that for some top selling items, there's 20 of them from different sellers that have the exact same title. It's mostly words that people are searching for, but also you want to have titles that stand out from your competition. So it's not as simple as just having search engine optimization, because if you have the exact same SEO title as everybody else, maybe somebody who has a unique title is going to stand out and get that sale, get that purchase, right? So titles is number one. Second is images, okay? So let's look at this example here. They have this doesn't really count because it's a variation. Let's get a listing like this. Here we go. Okay. eBay wants you to have at least 3 photos. I believe that if you have 3 photos, Cassini actually, that's a direct difference, right? You can also have up to 12. I am not sure if having all 12 photos does anything with Cassini. I believe that having 3 photos directly affects Cassini's algorithm. So you want to make sure you have at least 3 photos. And the reason that I believe this is because if you try and do less than 3, eBay will actually recommend, like there's a little thing that pops up and says you should have at least 3 photos, right? But maybe that's just a recommendation on their part. The reason that more photos might be good is because whenever you have a buyer, the more they can engage with your listing, the more likely they are to develop some kind of bond to it, whether it's small or whatever, and actually make the purchase. So if you've ever purchased something on eBay and you're excited about it, I don't know about you, but say that I'm looking for a Super Nintendo. I love Nintendo products. Like, I absolutely love them, right? If I found an ad and it only has 2 pictures like this, I mean, that's not super interesting to me, you know what I mean? There's only so much picture Super Nintendo porn I can look at in that photo. But if we scroll down and we find a actual console, let's see, we want one that is a photo itself, right? So if we go over here, oh, great. My internet just reset. Well, that's frustrating. Okay, still only 1 photo. Well, that looks better. What about this one? Here we go. Okay, so this has 3 photos. And that's not exactly what I want. I know, like, if I was buying a Super Nintendo, I would want to have, like, oh, it shows all of the different angles, and if you can kind of engage more with it, because then you can look through the listing and you get more excited. And I'm not saying all drop shipping purchasers will do that, but you do see that if you have a listing with more photos, people love photos. Like, even on social media, if you want to test this out, make a Facebook status and put no image in it. It's going to get much less engagement than if you post some kind of Facebook status about the exact same thing that also has a pretty photo. Images are everything to people, and especially on eBay, people shop, right? They search for something, so we're going to look for drill. And then their eyes literally just scan down the list and they look at the photos. And then if the photo brings attention, like they like what the photo is, then they look at the title. And if they like that, then they look at the description, okay? So we'll get a little bit more into that at first, but basically the priority is title and photo. Those are the things that will draw people into your listing. So if you can find ways to, one, catch as much attention as possible, while two, also standing out from your competition, that's kind of the trick to using titles and photos to get more sales, right? So now that we've talked about titles and we've talked about photos, let's talk about a bunch of other different things that affect your sale. So obviously there's going to be price, okay? More people will buy your item if it's cheaper than other items for sale. However, that doesn't mean that you have to be the person selling the item for the cheapest, right? Let's go look at one of my sales. So we're going to go to my eBay and then look at selling, because I want to show you that some of my sales, I am not the cheapest person selling the item, right? So I'm going to go to all orders. And sorry, this account, it's been really small. I just yesterday made it bigger, right? But okay, we're going to look at this item. Now I'm going to copy this model number and stream. So I sold this for $29, right? Okay, this is available for $19. This is available for $15, $21, $20, $19, $25, $19. I sold it for $29. And if you can see here are two other things that affect your sales. So you understand that price affects your sale, because if you have a cheaper item, then more people are going to buy it. But that does not mean that you have to sell the cheapest item. As you can see, I sold this item for $10 more than the average price of everyone else, like $19, $15, $21, $20, $19, $25. So I sold it for $5 more than the most expensive ones here, right? Look at that. So another thing to go over is your shipping, okay? See how my listings here have this fast and free logo? This is a direct effect that is going to increase the amount of sales that you get. And you get this fast and free stamp if you show a handling time of at least it's like 1 or 2 business days plus your shipping time. Basically the item has to be delivered within like 4 business days. So as long as that happens, then you'll get this fast and free stamp. And they calculate that by adding your handling time to your stated shipping time. It has nothing to do with how fast you actually ship the items, okay? And then also whether you offer returns or not here. So you can see that I offer free returns. So my listing, free shipping, free shipping, free shipping, free returns. This and this one are the only ones that also offer free returns. So it's another way that you can stand out. Because remember, most of your potential buyers, they're only going to see the information available in this page. They're not going to see your rating. They're not going to see anything until they click on the item. At this point, if they've clicked on the item, they're much closer to purchasing it than somebody who's just viewing it, right? So what's interesting about this, okay, this item is free shipping and returns, and it's $10 cheaper than mine, but nobody's ever bought it. Isn't that crazy? And look at this. So now let me also talk to you about feedback, because the feedback of the seller affects sales, but nowhere near as much as most dropshippers think it does. Okay, this seller has 18,000 feedback and a 99.2 positive feedback rate. Okay, now let's look at my feedback rate. We're gonna go here. Okay, I have a tenth of their feedback and a worse feedback rate than them. I have a 98.3 feedback rate. And this is actually like, the reason that my feedback rate is low is because I did a lot of experimentation with how to handle out of stocks. And as part of that experimentation, for about a month, I just didn't do anything to see what would happen, right? And that ended up resulting in like 10 negative feedback in one 30-day period. So you can see that in the past year, I've gotten 23 negative feedback in one month, I got half of that feedback. And now that I've changed everything, like I get much, much less negative feedback. So with time, this will go back up to like 99, but it's going to take a couple more months. Okay, so we've gone over that the title of the item affects sales. The photo affects sales. The number of available photos affects sales. The price of your item affects sales. Your feedback affects sales, but in a very minor way. And I think one of the reasons that your feedback is kind of minor is that the things that affect sales most are going to be anything that directly affects whether your listing shows up in search results like this, and then also any information that's available here. So looking at this, we cannot see what the seller is. There's no way to distinguish what people's feedback rates is or the different sellers and that kind of stuff. And because of that, like most of the people who buy my items are kind of frivolous, right? So they see an item and they like it and they're like, all right, and they click and they purchase, right? They don't really read descriptions too much. But I think that that's kind of a common trend with this, where you got to think about, okay, the information here that we can see right now, this is what's most important. This is what's going to make our listing stand out, right? And you don't necessarily have to be the first result. Like this is the first result of this search, right? And I'm like not until like the 7th result. And there's tons of cheaper items at this. Look at this, 17. There's tons of people selling this item, but for some reason they bought it from me. And there's one other thing that I'm going to explain to you. So the reason probably that they bought it from me is because I am not a top-rated seller in US domestically, but I am a top-rated seller in international, okay? And so if you look here, I can probably illustrate this concept to you guys. So right now I have a VPN on, right? And so eBay thinks that I'm in the United States. My business is based in the United States, so it's showing me the domestic version of this, right? And so in a second, I'll try and find the same listing, but it'll have the top-rated plus logo. But actually, that's going to take too much time, and it's going to slow the internet down, and I'm going to lose my momentum. So I just want to keep talking to you about different variables that affect your sales, okay? So you can look here, and you see that top-rated plus, okay? That is another thing that is going to affect your sales. If you are a top-rated plus seller, not only does it show up here, but this listing, if they weren't top-rated plus, would actually be further down here. You get a direct boost in search results because you are a top-rated seller, just like you get a direct boost if you are a fast and free seller, okay? So we've covered that if you have fast and free, if you have free returns, free shipping, top-rated plus, price. So now let's get into some of the kind of nitty-gritty things that affect your sales, but not as much as this stuff. Really, the stuff I've gone over so far is kind of from what affects your sales most to what affects them least. So now I'm going to cover some kind of less commonly talked about stuff that affects your sales, but not really by much. Okay? So as an example of this, let's look at this. All right. We're going to look at this listing. And look here. This person has 3 of these items available. Imagine that you want to buy 3. Well, you could buy it from them. But what if we look at this person? Oh, they only have 2 available. Okay, so I could not buy 3 from them. Like I would have to buy the 2 and then find another seller to buy them from. And most times, people just want to do one transaction, right? They don't want to do more work for the same amount of stuff. And what if I wanted 8 of these? I couldn't buy from anybody, but I could buy from me because I have 15 available, right? So your quantity available is going to affect the kind of, you're not going to get pushed up in search results as far as I know because you have a higher quantity, but you can get sales that other people can't get because you have a higher quantity available. Because I have such a big account, I'm able to post all of my items at 10 to 15 default quantity, right? So if somebody wants to buy 5 or 10, they can buy them from me, whereas the vast majority of other sellers do not have accounts that big, right? So to illustrate this concept a little bit, I'm going to open 5 links to the same item, right? And we're going to see how much these people have in stock. Okay, so this first guy has 3. The second guy has 1. The next guy has 2. The guy after that has 1. Oh, this isn't a drop shipper. This is an actual Huh, wow, that's funny. This is an actual eBay listing. That's hilarious. And then here we have, or sorry, this is an actual, like a physical eBay seller. And now we have just one as well. So it's actually quite uncommon. And just to illustrate that concept even further, let's open up even more of these links to show you that it's quite uncommon to have more than 3. 3 is the kind of standard default quantity available, right? Well, 1 is the standard, and then if you're going to have more than 1, it's typically 3. You will find that when you have items that sell tons and tons and tons and tons of them, then they'll have like 20 available or 50 available. But most of the time, people only have 1 available. Okay, this one has more than 10, so they have a bunch available. 6 available, 2 available, 3, 2, 1. See, it's pretty uncommon to have more than 3. We just did a sample of 10, so we didn't check every listing, obviously. But, you know, of those 10 listings, only 1 had more than 3. And that's not including mine, obviously. Okay? So now we've talked about this. We've talked about that you can have the different quantity available, right? And then also there's this guaranteed 3-day delivery thing. But this, see, it eliminated literally every single one of the items. This is a fairly new feature that eBay's launched, and a lot of dropshippers were like, oh my God, this is going to ruin everything. What is this going to do? It's going to be horrible. But I mean, it takes a while for eBay users to start using new features, right? And the trouble with 3-day delivery is it's not like eBay says that dropshippers can't really do it. I don't know how true that is, because the thing about guaranteed delivery is it's not just, okay, I can check it here, right? 4-day shipping. I can check this. This won't show up everything that'll show up in 4 days. This will show up all listings that will will arrive in 4 days, and the seller has opted in to guaranteed delivery. So there's a process to opt into it, and I could go more into guaranteed delivery, but having this available is going to increase your search results, and I think that's going to become more and more true over time. But at the moment, it's not like, oh, you're not screwed if you don't do it. But it's kind of finicky for dropshippers to do it because we don't have as much control over when our items ship. We have to use some workarounds because the way that you sign up for it, eBay will kind of tell you, oh, this program isn't for dropshippers, okay? But so now there's more stuff we can talk about here because I'm trying to cover absolutely every single variable that I know affects your sales, okay? Even the tiny ones, just to give you guys as much information as I possibly can. So we've covered that the quantity available will affect your sales. Whether you are guaranteed delivery or not will affect your sales. But now let's also talk about competition, because that is going to affect your sales. You will find that if you have more competition, obviously, then you will have a harder time selling your items. If you have less competition, it will be easier to sell your items. And I think one of the reasons that I'm able to sell stuff at high markups, because I use much higher margins than most dropshippers that I know. Like, because I bulk post, I just end up posting items that people haven't posted before without doing any research, because I just post everything, right? So that results in me posting items that don't have much competition, and therefore I'm able to sell them at higher prices. And also I just kind of get lucky, get the right items in the right place at the right time, and I'm able to make some sales. But now let's talk about another factor that affects your sales, and that is the price of your item, but not compared to your competition, okay? If you just separate from items, think about you as a person and your spending habits. Are you more likely to spend $20 or $2,000? Obviously, you're more likely to spend $20. When you sell cheap items, it's easier to produce sales because people are less attached to smaller amounts of money. It's harder to produce sales for very expensive items. But when you do, you earn more money, right? So there's, you guys who follow my channel know that I actually exclusively sell items that cost me less than $35 for various reasons. However, that doesn't mean that I don't think that it's worth selling more expensive items. The reason that I only sell cheaper items is because I have to think about how I can scale everything up 1,000-fold with the bulk mentality, right? So cheaper items produce less returns. You're talking about like when you have If you have much more expensive items like $200, $300, $400, maybe $1,000 items, your return rate is going to get closer to like 15%. Okay, because you have to think about it. People are buying things from you, and then they are getting paid the whole price of the item to do the return. If somebody buys a $1,500 item from you, they get $1,500 to go through the act of returning that, right? Whereas if somebody buys one of my $20 items, they only get $20 to do the exact same amount of work in the returns process. So it's just not as incentivizing and not as rewarding. So like my return rate right now is about 5%. And that's just because I use cheaper items. When you sell kind of a mismatch of items, your return rate will be around 10%. If you have much more expensive items, that are drop shipped at least, then your return rate will be higher than that, maybe 15%. The thing is, if you're selling more expensive items, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to have a higher return rate, especially if you're a physical seller on eBay, because then you can guarantee that, okay, the buyer really wants what I'm selling, and I'm one of the few people who can provide it to them. Whereas as a drop shipper, anybody in the world can buy whatever item you're selling, right? Unless you have a special agreement with a manufacturer. So it's not as simple and cut and dry as that, as, okay, cheap items don't produce problems and expensive items do. But you can think of it that way, that the more cheaper your item is, the less likely you are to have to deal with customer complaints and messages and returns and all that kind of stuff, because people just don't care as much, right? They're more willing to spend $20, $30 than they are to spend $100, $200, $1,000, okay? So that's another way that the price is going to affect sale. Then there's also, let's see, we've gone over the photos, we've gone over the title. Oh, okay, now let's go over the extra things. Okay, so I'm going to go to one of my available listings. Let's go to active listings. Where is it? Listings. Okay. And so take this with a grain of salt, because if you guys saw that, okay, in the past month, I've only sold like $3,000. I just yesterday restarted my whole store, and now I'm posting probably around 100,000 items. I've already queued everything up, but if you refresh this page, right, you'll see that this number, see, it just went up by 3, right? So this number is constantly going up until it populates all of the items that I just added yesterday morning, but it takes time, right? So I'm in the middle of a big transition from a small store to a kind of standard format 100,000 item bulk store, okay? But that's a distraction. What I want to show you is, let's look at one of these items. So I'm going to look at this item here, and then we're going to go to revise. Because there is another thing that will affect search results in a direct way, okay? Remember, when I say direct, I mean that it shows up in this first page when you're searching for something, right? If it shows up and the buyer doesn't have to click on the item to see the difference, then that's going to indicate that it's a stronger effect on the listing, right? So let's scroll down and talk about this. Okay, so you have the option of using a subtitle. Let's see if we can find anything with subtitles. We won't be able to here, but if we go back to the Super Nintendo thing, then we'll find some examples of subtitles, okay? So let's see. Okay, look at this. You see how this says brand new, pre-owned, brand new, Mario World or choice of other games, see description? This is a subtitle, which is why this link says sponsored, okay? You can pay fees to eBay so that your item has subtitles and various other things, okay? And aside from that, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. Like, you can make your listing show up bold in search results. I don't know how to do that. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. You can make it display a large photo in search results with Gallery Plus, right? So let's do something later to try and figure out how that would work. Here, there's only one photo because I bulk list, and sometimes my source only has one photo. So this isn't ideal. Obviously, this listing isn't optimized, right? Or at least not completely optimized. It does have 80 characters, but these aren't necessarily things that people are going to be searching for. But look out here. So you can bold your title for $4. That's really expensive. And if it's bold, that means that the title itself will be in bold here. So it'll pop out. But I think because of the price of that, very few people actually do it. $4 a month is quite expensive. So you can use you can pay eBay to have a bold title. You can pay eBay to have a bigger photo, right? If we look in the revised listing thing here, right under this is the option to display a large photo in search results with Gallery Plus, okay? So you can also have a subtitle. So those are 3 things that you can directly pay per eBay listing that are gonna change what this first part looks like, okay? And so now let's talk about another thing that I haven't gone over yet. I know, guys, this is a lot of information because there is so many different variables that affect your sales. There are tons of them, right? Especially if we're considering indirect and direct sales, okay? The other thing is the quantity of items that you have already sold. For example, like say that I'm hesitant and I don't really trust people and I'm hesitant to buy something on eBay because I think someone's gonna screw me over, right? Look at this. This person has sold 57 of these. Whoa. That means that 57 people have bought something from this guy. That means I can trust him, right? See? And I don't know, okay, you see this little thing here, 100% buyer satisfaction? I have no idea how that's determined. Like, no idea. Maybe it's some metric based on what feedback was received from these people, if these people left any negative feedback, that kind of thing. Okay? So the amount you have sold is going to help you sell more. Once you sell an item once, it becomes more likely to sell again. Every time an item sells, it gets a temporary boost in search results. So it's going to show up higher. And if this means the difference between showing up on the second page and the first page, that's going to make a big difference, right? So the quantity sold makes a difference. And keep in mind that you don't actually have to produce a sale to get it to show that it's sold another quantity. You can, if somebody buys your item but doesn't pay for it, then they're going to, your listing is going to show that you have sold an additional item, okay? So aside from that, there's also another variable here, which is the amount left. All right, look at this. More than 96% sold. Only 2 available. Oh no, that establishes urgency. So this isn't huge because it's not something that somebody sees here, right? But say that they want to get this item and it's hard to find. There's only 2 available. 57 have sold. Holy crap, this might sell out. I gotta buy it. There's 96% of them sold already. They're gonna run out of them, right? And the reality is most of these items, like the person actually has more than 2 available. They're just saying that they only have 2 available to increase urgency, right? So that's a tactic that works better when you have physical items for sale that are in high demand. As a dropshipper, all of my items are cheaper elsewhere. So I don't really try and increase urgency by reducing my quantity available because I find that most of my profit comes from these multi-quantity sales where I don't have to pay shipping costs. And we're talking about like $120 sale costs $60 to fulfill, right? In traditional dropshippers, that's like the profit from like 10 to 20 sales in one sale. So that's why I use multi-quantity and I don't really care about establishing urgency, but it is something that you can do, right? Okay, so we also have this metric here, how many viewed per hour, but that's not really important. Another thing that matters is how many watchers you have. The more watchers you have, the more interest people are gonna have because it's just like seeing that other people have purchased the item. If they see that other people are watching the item, then they're gonna trust the item more. They're gonna think that you're gonna give a better experience, okay? So we have the watchers. There's so much to cover here. Like it's hard to keep track of what I've gone over and what I still have to go over. So now let's talk about shipping speed because this matters. And I've talked about this obviously with the eligibility for a top rated seller or showing free shipping in your listings. But you also want to look at your shipping speed because this is, if buyer looks at this page, right? The thing that they're most likely to look at this page for is how long it's going to take for them to receive the item. So they're going to look for a specific date. And if they look at this delivery part here, they're going to be shown a date that is today plus your handling time plus your shipping time in the range there. The range is caused by the shipping time. So the handling time is always going to be like a set 1 day or a set 2 day or same day or whatever. But the shipping time can have a range. So it'll be like between 1 and 3 days. That means that your buyer will be shown a range of your handling time plus 1 to your handling time plus 3, right? So your shipping speed will affect sales because people will buy items because they know that you're going to ship them faster, right? And that's something that it does actually happen. I should have talked about this at the beginning because it's important. If you have faster shipping, then people are going to buy stuff from you because they want the item sooner, right? And not all fast and free sellers are created equal. Fast and free just means delivery within 4 business days, right? If you use Amazon or Walmart 2-day items, then you can deliver the item in 2 business days. So that's double as fast as some people who have the fast and free logo, right? Okay, so shipping speed affects it, and also item location affects it. So the reason that item location affects you, and I know this from my personal experience selling on eBay as a physical seller and buying things and trying to figure out how to make money off of that kind of stuff. People will look at your item location because they know that just because the item is stated to show up here 20 to 24 days, that's a 4-day window. So if this item is located in Miami, Florida, right? If I live in Florida, this item is going to show up closer to the 20th versus the 24th. Whereas if I lived in California, it's going to show up closer to the 24th. So some people will look at your item location and pick an item that is closer to them, again, just like the shipping speed, because they want the item sooner, okay? So at this point, we've gone over feedback, we've gone over photos, we've gone over titles, we've gone over subtitles, we've gone over quantity available, we've gone over the amount of watchers you have, we've gone over the percentage you have sold, we've gone over the number you have sold, we've gone over price and different pricing formats, we've gone over shipping speeds, we've gone over estimated delivery and guaranteed delivery. So now let's talk about the stuff that I personally think really does not matter. So the reason that I think descriptions don't matter is because I'm a drop shipper, okay? Back when I was physically selling Nintendo products, well, yeah, descriptions matter, right? And I'm not saying people don't read descriptions, but the reality is, like, most of my customers, they are buying items that they could find for cheaper on eBay. They could find them for way cheaper on Walmart or Amazon, but they don't do research. They just see a photo, see a title, and then they click the buy it now button. Seriously, that's like literally all they do. I don't actually want to buy that. Nope, don't want to buy it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about description here, because I don't think description matters a whole lot. And this person has the kind of description that I like. I think descriptions should be minimal. You should have just the absolute necessary information about your item, right? And not a whole bunch of excess information. I think that that's like one of the reasons that I don't include a whole lot of information in my description. Let's actually look at what my descriptions look like so I can show you. Let's go to a listing, and then we're just going to pick some random item. Just watch his wildest dreams come true. No one of them involving. Sorry, I'm listening to Paramore. Okay, so here's the listing. We got one photo. Obviously, with bulk, I don't have everything optimized, so that complicates things, right? But I should be able to opt in to see free delivery in 2 or 4 days. I'm going to work on figuring out how to get involved with guaranteed delivery and see if that will do good things for me. But now let's look at the description. Okay, so we have the title of the item, which is just copied, right? And then we have the item specifics, and these are pulled from Walmart. I only have information about the item here, right? And then instead of describing what my shipping policy is and payment policy and whether I like payment through PayPal and all that kind of stuff, I just use this little moniker here. Stuff ships fast, stuff ships overseas, don't like it, send that stuff back. This little amount of words here shows that I have quick shipping. It shows that I have international shipping. And it shows that if you don't like the item, you can just return it, okay? So that's kind of what my business model is based on. But the reason that I don't think that it's a good idea to have a ton of information in your description is that you don't want redundancy, okay? Because if you look here, you can see, okay, we accept PayPal. This is our shipping speed. This is our return. This is our eBay guarantee. All of this information is included in every single one of your listings. It's shown multiple times where the item's located, everything, before you even get to the description. And so what you'll find is if you populate your description with stuff like your return policy, your shipping speed, handling time, all of that information, then when you make changes to your shipping policies or whatever, then you have to remember to also change your description. And I just don't think that that's like, I'd rather not have to remember that and not have to change any of my descriptions, right? And all the information is already available right here. This is what the buyer is going to see first. So I don't think it's a great idea to have like paragraphs and paragraphs of information here, when the reality is that most people don't look at it. Like, the thing that I learned from physically selling stuff on eBay, right? This is buying stuff from like storage lots and from Craigslist and from thrift stores and reselling it. This is what I learned from that. Mistakes in the photo guarantee a problem. Mistakes in the title could produce a problem. Mistakes in the description probably won't affect anything. However, that also goes both ways. So let's find an example of something. All right, let's say that this item did not include the orange dog, and it was only for the blue dog. And in my description, I said, in all caps, like 20 times, this is only for the orange dog, this is only for the orange dog, this is only for the orange dog, this is only for the orange dog. I know from experience, people will still buy that item expecting the blue dog. You gotta remember, people look at photos and titles. Photos and titles are king. Description is not as important. Most people don't look at it. They're gonna look at the description if they're engaged with your item and they wanna learn a little bit more about it, but at that point, they're doing research. So they're probably not gonna buy it from me, okay? Okay, so we talked about description, which is the thing I think of all that I've talked about here that matters less. Actually, no, there's one thing I haven't gone over that matters less than description, and that is your eBay store name. Some people think that it's like, oh, they spend tons of time thinking about, what should I name my store? What should it be? Should it be, I don't know, like great deals? Or it doesn't matter. It really does not matter. Very, very, very few people are going to buy items from you because of your store name, okay? And like mine has the word dead dog in it. Like, come on. The reason my store name is Dead Dog Deals is because it used to be Gully Games, and it was named after my dog, Gully, but Gully died. So I changed my store name to Dead Dog Deals because, I don't know, it's alliteration, and I don't know. I miss that dog a lot. He was an amazing dog. Okay, so we've talked about that, which really doesn't matter, and we've talked about the description, which really doesn't matter. But now let's talk about item specifics, because this is the last thing I'm going to go over, and it's something that actually does affect your sales. And let me explain why. It's not going to it's not going to affect your sales in a huge way, because it's not like, okay, I'm getting off track here. Item specifics is this section right here. So you can see that there's one specific that is, okay, this is generic brand. The model number is this. Here is the UPC number. If this was like a black colored item, maybe the color would show up and it would say black. Let's get a better sense of this by we're going to look at another listing so I can show you that there's a bunch of different options for item specifics. So let's find a piece of jewelry, because jewelry have really deep item specifics that go a long way, right? So we're going to go to revise our item, and we're going to auto-populate the item specifics. Here we go. So I'm going to accept all, and that's going to add all of these item specifics. These are what I'm talking about. So item specifics don't really affect, okay, your buyer's going to see this information, but it's also available in the description and in the title, right? But the reason the item specifics matter is something I'm going to show you in a second, right? So we have all of these. You understand, okay, there's specific areas that eBay looks at the store category, right? Oh, that's another thing I got to go over. Wow, there's so much stuff. eBay looks at the store category, and based on the category, they have a list of kind of questions. They're like, okay, what metal is this? What is the main stone color? What is the total carat weight? What is the cut? What is the treatment? All of that kind of stuff, right? So the more of these you fill out, the more information is available to your buyer. And let me show you how that affects things. We're going to go into a search result, and we're going to look at like diamond jewelry, okay? Diamond ring. Joke. Okay, cool. So now look at this. You see this search box here? And again, we're on the most engaged page, which is what happens on the first page when you have searched for something. Anything that is on this page is going to affect sales much more than anything else. Oh, look here, only one left. Urgency, free shipping, 12 sold. Oh, promotions. Wow, that's another thing I gotta go over. Okay, I gotta cover categories and promotions as well. Okay, so here we go. We have all of these different item specifics. And the reason that this matters is because if you click on this, it's only going to show you the items that have that added in their item specific, okay? For example, let's search for something like, I don't know, what's something that's available in multiple colors? Let's just search for the color black. Okay, cool. And now, item specifics. Here we go. Okay. I wasn't able to figure it out that quickly, but imagine that there is an item specific here that says color, okay? And you have the option of picking the color black. If you pick that, only items that have an item specific that shows black will show up. Even if your item has black in the title and black in the description, if you do not have black in the item specific, then it's not going to show up when the buyer filters the search result using any of these refinements, okay? So that's why item specifics matter, is because buyers will do this and then they'll look for the search and then they'll click the categories that they like and then look at the results, unaware that they're not actually seeing all of the items that they want, because some sellers don't put in the item specifics, myself included. If I'm editing the listing like you guys just saw and I'm in the listing, then I'm going to make some changes just because I'm there and I might as well, but I don't go through every single one of my items and make sure that all the item specifics are filled in. And if I did that, they would sell more. Okay, so item specifics is taken care of. So now let's cover categories. And to do this, let's go back to revising an item because it's easiest that way. The category that your item is in is going to affect the sales that it gets, okay? And this may seem pretty obvious, but let me explain to you why. So it is not as simple as every one item has one specific category that it should be in. You'll find that sometimes you have items and it's feasible that they could be in any one of like 5 different categories, okay? I tend to sell pretty specific items, like, okay, this is like salsa or jam or something. So obviously it's going to go in the jam, jellies, and preserves section, right? Actually, this is salsa. So it's in jam, jellies, and preserves, but maybe it should be in sauces or maybe even condiments. You know, there's other options here, right? So some people will search for items based on the category, okay? So what they're going to do is when they make a search, right? What I did before was like diamond ring. Then see here, shop by category, and then you can click here, right? So now that I clicked this, only rings that are populated in the category I just clicked on are going to show up in search results. So that's going to affect your sales, right? Because you have the option of putting things in multiple search results. So sometimes buyers are going to be looking for salsa, but they're going to be looking for salsa in the condiments section, right? So this item is never going to show up to them because they have the item specific category enabled, and my item was in jams and jellies, and they're not looking in jams and jellies for salsa, they're looking in condiments. The reality is that a lot of people are just going to search for something and not use the category filter, but it is something that some buyers will do, and by doing this properly, you can stand out from your competition, right? So another thing you can do with categories is add a second category, okay? So see where it says fees may apply? It's going to cost like 30 cents or something, but you can actually have your item listed in 2 different categories, which means that, you know, your item's going to show up in 2 different places when people search by category. So that's going to increase your visibility a little bit, right? Not going to be a huge difference, but yeah. Okay, so we've gone over categories. We've gone over item specifics. So now let's go over promotions. And then I thought I was done, but I'm still, this is a long video. Wow. Yeah, we're at 44 minutes. Wow. Okay. And I am not running out of stuff. This is probably going to be an hour because I have to go over, just finish categories. Now I'm going to talk to you about promotions, and then I'm going to talk to you about eBay stores, because these are all other variables that can affect your sales on eBay. Okay. So Now let's try and find a promotion. Okay, here we go. This is a promotion. So you see how this says was $4,199 and current price is $1,679? You see that? That is a promotion where the item is actually listed at $4,100. So if the person goes into the revise item, like the seller, if they go into this item and they click revise, then it's going to show this price, $4,100. But the seller is running a promotion, okay? And this is something that you can do if you have an eBay store, where it makes you're like, all right, for the next 2 weeks, every single one of my items is going to be 20% less than its price, right? So that's what this thing is up here. This promotion, save up to 60%. So it has a crossed off price and then the actual price. I've heard that this actually works quite well. I haven't gotten into it myself, but it's something that most retailers use. Like if you look at any Amazon item, they're all going to use this strategy. Literally every item for sale on Amazon. Look at that. I didn't even have to look at I didn't even have to search for an item to find it. $50 crossed off. $40. That it's basically the person being like, hey, look, this is $10 cheaper than it normally is. This item is $2,500 cheaper than it normally is. Except the reality is that most of the time they're just pricing it for like 1,000 times its price and then having a sale for 90% off. So it just looks like it's cheaper when in reality it's the same price. Okay. I'm not saying that always happens. Sometimes people do have actual sales, but most of the time it's just a gimmick to get you to think that the item's cheaper. But let me show you how popular this gimmick is, because it's used in every item, basically. Here, I don't see it with this. I'm not viewing this in the right format, though. Oh yeah, that's because I got to actually search for something. So let's search for chocolate milk. Chocolate milk. All right, so I don't see it in these items. I used to see it all the time. Maybe it's for more expensive items. So let's look at Nintendo Wii. Jeez. Somebody's selling Wiis for $800. That's absurd. These are not that rare. You can get a Wii on Craigslist for $20. I wonder if they've ever actually sold this. That's crazy. But yeah, I just wanted to show you the cross-off thing, right? Okay, so I was wrong. It doesn't happen on every single item, but it is very common to see, right? Okay, so we've talked over that. That is one form of promotion, but you can also have other promotions where you're like, all right, if you buy this item, then you'll get another item from my store for 30% off. There's a bunch of different promotions that you can pick that are going to affect your listing, okay? So we've talked about a bunch of stuff at this point, right? So now I'm going to go over the last thing, which is your eBay store. So some people on eBay have a business model that is exclusively set up about eBay stores, all right? And the reason that this is interesting is because if you click this Visit Store button, right, at this point, it's just like we're browsing eBay, except the catch here, look, there's categories to pick from. There's a whole bunch of different stuff to pick from. The thing here is that we're only seeing this seller's items. So we're much more likely to buy their items when we're not even seeing their competition, right? So some people set their whole eBay business up around this concept where they populate their eBay store itself with items that, okay, one, you have items in different price formats, right? So you have items that are designed to kind of make your other items look cheaper. So you'll have like 3 different rings available, and one is $3,000 and one is $2,000, right? So we get a sense here just by looking at this page. Okay, this is $2,000. This one's $3,000. This ring is more expensive and better than this ring, right? And we think that because of the price difference. When in reality, they could actually be the exact same price, and the seller is just trying to kind of trick things, right? So if you can get people to browse within your store, they're only going to see your items. So they're much more likely to make purchases of items that are more expensive and all that kind of stuff, right? So this is something that I need to actually learn more about, because I wish that there was a metric that would show me how many of my sales come from people browsing my actual store itself, right? Like, I wish I could know if the buyer searched for like cat toy and then clicked on my cat toy and bought it, or if they searched for like dog toy or something and then ended up finding my store and then visiting my store and buying it that way. That would be really useful. But all right, I have babbled on long enough. I have now dispensed absolutely every single variable that I know affects your sales on eBay. I hope that was useful, guys. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. 61% of the people who watch my channel are not subscribed. Crazy, right? All right, I will see you next time. Ciao.